All right, so this is recording on OBS as well for anyone who cannot watch the whole live stream or did not join in time. So first of all, going over the 24-hour liquidations, we had 200 million of liquidations, with shorts being 154 million, longs being 45. So obviously we had a short squeeze. That's why we're seeing a lot of shorts being liquidated. And also it's going to add to my sentiment of bullish for Q1. Now let's go ahead and look over the liquidation data. So looking over the past 24 hours of liquidations, we have a lot of liquidity levels near 92.2K and then some below us at around 90K. Now, in my opinion, I'm not sure if we're going to pull back that much, to be honest, because just seeing how strong the market has been, it is very tempting to say that it's basically up only for the next few weeks. Now, yes, we do have some liquidity levels on the 1 week that could still send us down to 89K, 88K, 87K, etc. But just keep in mind that we're in a very strong uptrend at the moment. And my only apprehension on this is we still have a CME gap at 88.2K, which again could, if we do end up turning to the downside, the 88.2 could be a good target to long. So keep that level in mind with these liquidation clusters. Now, looking at the news items. So the biggest news item we had was the whole thing with Venezuela. Now, with this said, here's something that I think opened my eyes to how bullish we really are, is when you look at how the market reacted initially when the US bombed Venezuela. They bombed the capital before Maduro was captured, okay? There's still a lot of uncertainty, right? The market didn't go down 5 or 10%. It went down a couple percent. It wasn't like, obviously it's different than us attacking China or Russia or Iran, but even so, when there's war tensions going on, the market didn't really react accordingly. It just had a slight pullback. And I think that's a testament to, one, the supply being absorbed and how much demand there actually is in this market right now, because we're no longer in the same position of it's the end of the year, people are profit taking, tax loss harvesting, there's a lot of volatility, etc. It's a new year now and people are ready to go risk on. And we've seen that with the pumps in Pepe. We've seen that with the pumps in, various other tokens, and that if people are willing to buy these tokens now, it tells you they're willing to go risk on in the market and really go down that risk curve of these low cap tokens. Not even Pepe, but any low caps such as even Useless being a lower market cap token, or even White Whale, Flying Ketamine Horse, a lot of other of these low cap memes that are starting to pump, even Brett, ones that haven't gained attention until now. And so that is definitely a testament to how bullish we are about to become. Also, we have CZ being very bullish on the market. Elon activating free internet in Venezuela until February 3rd. Awesome for that. And then also we have Michael Saylor hinting at buying more Bitcoin. So spoiler alert, whenever Michael Saylor purchases Bitcoin, usually it marks a local top. And we find out about it the day after of why did the market drop? And then we see, oh, Michael Saylor just bought Bitcoin. And so anytime he hints at buying more Bitcoin, then usually that's what happens. And so I wouldn't say it happens 100% of the time, but probably 80 to 90%. It's fairly accurate. So let's see if he actually does pull the trigger on that, purchase more Bitcoin, you have a short-term pullback. He's used his exit liquidity from the institutions, and then we continue higher from there. But in this current environment that we're in right now, dips are for buying. So no matter what happens over the next few weeks, any dip that happens, I will be buying, just because of what we've seen over these past few days and really what's been telegraphed, not only with meme coins pumping, Bitcoin, Ethereum continuing to pump, but also ETF flows and the fear and greed index rising, and just how many of those indicators are flashing buy signals. Even the weekly indicators are oversold. And so those are continuing to rise. And so that's something that, like I said, you have to look at what the market's doing and how it's reacting to situations like the strike on Venezuela. It didn't drop as much as we expected it would. And so again, just another thing you have to look out for. Now let's go and look at the macro view for the TradFi space. So the S&P is at 68.58, still the weekend, not trading, but something to watch out for is this bearish divergence on the RSI. It is crossing below its signal line on the weekly, indicating more bearish momentum, potentially a pullback here to 66.30. Now, all last year, the stock market pretty much outperformed the crypto market, minus a couple months. And so we had AI tokens pumping, the S&P was obviously pumping, and really precious metals even, right? And even those were outperforming Bitcoin. And so now what we're seeing, in my opinion, is a transfer from the people who are getting into the stock market now and think they're going to ride that wave a second year in a row, to now potentially that wealth transferring from stocks and now transferring to Bitcoin or Ethereum or other tokens. And so that's something that I'm watching very, very closely. And I think everyone else should be watching as well. So just keep an eye on that. And again, same thing here with gold. So gold forming a bearish divergence on the weekly RSI, crossing below its signal line, signaling bearish momentum. It is holding support at 42.70. So keep an eye on that if that continues to hold. If not, then you could see it dropping much further, and that would be even more indicative of people going risk on into the market, because gold is historically used as a hedge against inflation, a hedge against uncertainty. And so if it drops, that means people don't want to hold gold anymore. They're willing to go full risk on. And you could argue we're already seeing that with coins like Pepe, Shiba Inu, Bonk pumping 20, 30, 40, 50%. I mean, that could be an argument in and of itself. So we'll have to see what happens next week, and if we continue this outperformance of Bitcoin versus stocks and precious metals. And also real quick, historically, precious metals have pumped. After they pump and reach all-time highs, historically, Bitcoin has risen afterwards. And so if they truly are putting in there at least local tops, then we could see Bitcoin pick up the pace afterwards. Now, oil futures, going to be interesting to see what happens with this, with the Venezuelan oil. About $17 trillion worth of Venezuelan oil is up for grabs for the United States. I know they said they were going to start drilling for it and really giving those incentives back to the people of Venezuela versus Maduro, who was actually taking all that for himself. And so now we're going to see that little transfer, and curious if the oil prices are going to drop from that or if they may have a short-term spike before dropping. So we'll watch that and let you guys know. And then for the DXY, the dollar. So the dollar is inversely correlated to Bitcoin and the S&P. So if the dollar ends up closing the weekly above this resistance, which should be in a few hours, then more times than not, it's going to go to 98.80, which would be a little pullback in Bitcoin and the S&P, which would also line up with a lot of daily indicators that are exhausted and require a pullback. So that's something I'm going to be watching closely. And then as far as support, if it breaks below 98.20, I would expect 98.50 from there. But the RSI is still a little bit ways away from its signal line, so potentially a little bit higher here before rejecting. Next, let's look at the overall market. So I mentioned everything's bullish right now. We have Bitcoin up 0.9%, 91.2K. Ethereum up 0.8%, 3140. Solana up 0.8%, 133.80. Now look at these trending tokens. Ponky, 95% to 6.4 cents. Pudgy Penguins, 15%. Pepe, 15%. CZ's Dog, 58%. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. When you have memes and all of this money flowing in, you even look at the top gainers, Bonk, Pepe, Shib, 11, 15, 30%. Like, you can't ignore this data because it's showing you what you focus on is attention. Because as Luke always says, where attention goes, money flows, Luke Belmar. And so now we're seeing that literally, in person, seeing this money flowing to these tokens. So what is that telling us? It's telling us retail is returning. Then also you have Kaspa Algo and a few other older coins. And so I do think that the market is returning again. I think risk on is clearly at play, and now any dips will be for buying. So keep an eye on those. Also looking at the Fear and Greed Index I mentioned earlier, it's at 40 right now, up from it was previously 38 yesterday, 29 last week, and then 27 last month. And so you're obviously seeing people getting more confident in the market. They're no longer as scared, more going into that neutral territory, similar to April of last year when we were in extreme fear, just like we were in November. And then we slowly climbed up from 78K all the way up to 118K. I think that's going to happen this time around. I think Q1 is going to surprise a lot of people. I think 100K is just a starting line, and we could potentially get up to 105 to 110. I think it's very possible, just considering how bullish we are the first few days of January, which usually it's the opposite, right? We usually have a pullback. So could this be a blow off top? Yes, it could. But I think the whole situation of the 4-year cycle being broken, because we did have 3 green candles. Well, we used to have 3 green yearly candles and 1 red, as far as 3 years in a bull market, 1 year in a bear. Now this past time we had 2 green candles, 2023 and 2024, and then 1 red candle in 2025. So it was 2 green candles and 1 red, no longer 3 green, 1 red. And so that whole cycle now has people thinking that 2026 could turn green. So it's just, again, you have to look at it from all the different angles. The difference in this cycle versus last is institutions and ETFs really absorbing a lot of that supply. And so it's changed the game and changed the metrics a little bit. And so now potentially what we're seeing is after the shakeout we had in Q4, now we're seeing the rally afterwards. And I do think Q1 will be an echo bubble, which is even a bigger rally than we had last year. So very, very bullish on that. Now, also looking at ETF flows, more reasons I'm bullish. So if you look at Ethereum, 174 million worth of inflows. This is more than the past few weeks, period. And so that shows you institutions are ready to go risk on for Ethereum. You look at Bitcoin, it's 471 million. Again, more than the past few weeks. And so this is a clear indication institutions were outflows all, the last few weeks, besides a few days. And now they're finally ready to go in with these large inflows to start the year because we no longer have the uncertainty, like I said, of profit taking or tax loss harvesting. And so this is a very bullish sign. I'll be very curious to see how Monday opens and what the flows are like on that day, if this confirms or if we're back to the outflows again. Hopefully not, but let's see what happens. Now let's go ahead and look over some charts. Also, if you guys have any recommendations for charts, go ahead and leave them in the comments. And also, if you want to speak, raise your hand and I will get you in a minute. Now, looking at Bitcoin, it's at 91.1K. So one thing I was looking at on the daily here was we did have a lot of liquidity zones near 90 to 91K. Those have already gotten tagged. Now we have the resistance of the 50 EMA. So if you zoom out, you'll see the 50 EMA historically has acted as resistance. Now we did, yes, close above it 2 candles in a row in October, but then we closed back below it. And then you look at October 13th, rejected off it as resistance, held it as support on September 30th, which sent it much higher, but then we rejected off it prior to that, September 24th, rejected off it again, September 9th, September 5th, you get the picture. Okay, so it is a significant moving average. That's why I am looking at it so closely right now. And you already see Bitcoin is rejecting off of it. So here's the big question. Do we reject off of it and we touch the CME gap at 88.2K? All right, is that where we're going from here? And let me draw a little dashed line. So this is the area I'm watching, 88.2K. Or do we just bounce off of, let's say, 90K support and then continue higher from there? I could see both scenarios, probably the latter a little more likely if we just bounce off a 90K support because of the strength we had and then continue higher from there. But even if we do continue lower, right, and hit the CME gap and then continue higher from there, we would still make higher lows because we made a higher low, and this would still be a higher low. Okay, so we'd still maintain that bullish structure if we came down to 88.2K. As long as we close the daily above 87.2K, then I'd feel fine and maintain that bullish structure. But the big thing, again, you have to watch is this 50 EMA going to hold or are we going to close above it? If we close above it, then the big question becomes, how far above it did we close? Was it just above it at 91.6K? Was it more above it at, let's say, 92.5K, which this one would clearly signal that we're going much higher. Then I would start to target 93.5K as the next major resistance. And then from there, we'd go for 97K. That also coincides with the 100 EMA on the daily. So you can see a lot of significant levels. Looking at the indicators here, stock RSI is way overbought. Now, the only reason I'm a little apprehensive just in the stock RSI holding is because whenever you're in a bull trend or shifting from a bear to a bullish trend, these indicators can remain overbought for extended periods of time. Like the stock RSI could be overbought just like it was back in September, just like it was back, all the way back here in April. Whenever we really started to shift into this bullish trend, it was literally overbought for almost a month, April 12th to May 3rd. And from that time, Bitcoin went from 84K, barely had any pullbacks, again, all the way to 111K before any meaningful pullback, right? So that could very well happen here. Stock RSI stays overbought. RSI isn't overbought yet. We still continue higher. The 50 EMA doesn't hold and basically just up only from there, right? Because again, people are conditioned to short right now. They're conditioned to short because that's what they've done all Q4 and it worked out for them. So why wouldn't it work out this time? Well, because things have changed. We're in the beginning of the year now. ETF flows are coming back. Retail's coming back. Fear and greed index is rising. A lot of indications. So that's, again, just the only thing I would say to be a little apprehensive. Let's see, a few questions there. Okay, let me go ahead and check Ethereum and Solana, and then I'll check XRP, Luca, and I will check Zcash as well. Nobody. I'll make sure to check those for you guys. And of course, if anyone else has any questions, leave them in the comments or request to speak either way. Now, Ethereum, guys, Ethereum is very bullish. Like we closed above the 50-day EMA, and technically we've closed 2 candles above it, about to be third. Stock RSI is overbought, but like I said, can remain overbought for extended periods of time in a bull market. or at least a rally, and then the RSI is still curving to the upside. So now what we're looking at, I mean, Ethereum looks very good. If it closes the daily above, then I would look for this 50 EMA to hold a support at 31.15, and then at that point start to target 32.70. Like Ethereum looks a little bit better than Bitcoin just because it's above this 50 EMA. So I'd look for 32.70 to be the next big target, and then this 200 EMA, this pink line, at 33.50 after that. Now, support-wise for Ethereum, if it breaks below the 50 EMA, then I would look for 30.50, previous resistance turn support, and then below that, 29.30. Same thing there. But like I said, if it holds 29.30, that would still be a higher low. And that's what we're talking about for bullish structure, okay? So you guys got to get in the habit of looking at bullish structure. And if it's not invalidated, then it's still up only, and buying the dips remains the plan. So, which I will continue to do. Now, finally, Solana. So Solana is not looking too bad. Now, for anyone who's been paying attention to my updates on X, I did have this double bottom here on Solana. It literally played out to a T. I drew this over a week ago when it was down here and perfectly played out there. And so right now for Solana, looking at some resistance near 137, 138, which coincides with horizontal resistance December 9th, as well as the 50 daily EMA, and then the trend line resistance as well. So, excuse me, 3 areas of confluence there for a short. So keep that in mind if you are looking to short Solana. If it breaks above all of these and closes above the daily, then I would look at 145, the next major resistance, followed by 145 and then 167. Now to the downside, I'll look for 130, probably where I'd buy Solana at on a pullback, and then 125 and 117. As you can see, the stock RSI is still overbought. But if you look at the weekly, I mean, guys, and this is how it looks on all Bitcoin and Ethereum. The stock RSI is way oversold and now curving to the upside. So a ton of opportunity still to go higher. Same with the RSI, crossing to the upside, looking at this signal line. Like, so any pullback that we have from now on will be for buying. I mean, it's just the way it is, right? Because I know we were conditioned to sell only the latter half of last year, but now things are changing. Now I do believe that things are going to really start to get crazy here. So yeah, any pullback will be for buying. I highly recommend DCAing at these support levels, 130, 125, 117. If it does give it, obviously for leverage, 5x or less. So let's go ahead and look at XRP. So Luca asked about that. Let's see. XRP, I know a friend of mine was longing XRP, and that's actually going very well. One of the things I was focused on for XRP is this 50-day EMA. So it looks like it's closing above it. Very, very bullish. Same thing. Stock RSI is overbought. RSI still has room to go. So that tells you we could still very much go higher here. Now, resistance-wise, XRP, 211, 216, and 225. If you're currently holding it, then I would say there's probably a little resistance at 212. So maybe take a little profits here, but definitely keep some in the tank, maybe just 50%, because I do think XRP still likely it goes higher from here. Obviously, if it breaks down below, support's going to be $2 psychologically, and then 178 if it does return here again. But XRP is still looking relatively well, especially if it can close the daily above here in a couple hours. So going to keep an eye on that. And then Zcash. So Zcash has been doing very, very well. One of the privacy tokens I like, in addition to Monero and Umbra, which Umbra is another one I can talk about in a minute. But Zcash is at 500. So it's at that big psychological level again. Now, where are the indicators at? Well, unfortunately, the RSI is rejecting off its signal line, curving to the downside. So I do not like to see this if I'm a bull. I like to say, well, if it's above the signal line, bullish uptrend. If it's below it, then potentially bearish. Now, combine that with the stock RSI curving to the downside, Zcash may be a little lower. Now, here's going to be the deciding factor, okay? Can 485 hold? That's going to be the big support level here. Can 485 hold? If not, at the very, very least, I would look for 435, most likely. But again, it's just from these indicators. I do think 485 is going to hold. And just because these indicators are reset already, they're not overbought. So I think Zcash has a little bit better chance of holding there. But if 485 does fall, then I would look for, again, 440-ish. That'd be the next level to watch out for. Resistance-wise, if we bounce here, then around 575 to 590, that's going to be your big area to take profit next. And then above that, 650 and then 700. So those psychological levels again. But for the time being, if we're looking at the 4-hour as well, I mean, look at the 4-hour. Overbought stock RSI curving to the downside. RSI is curving to the downside below its signal line, indicating bearish momentum. So probably at least a retest of 480 to 485. And then below that, like I said, 435 would be what I would watch out for. All right, no problem, nobody. Adam says, can you check Tau as well? Yeah, let's go ahead and check out Tau. All right, so let's look at the daily. And also, guys, the way I do my TA and the way everyone should do it is, one, use your higher time frames for your bias. Okay, so what I mean by that is if your indicators are overbought on your daily or weekly, then look for potential short opportunities on the lower time frame. So the bias is your higher time frames and your entries is your lower time frame. So for example, if I was looking for a short on Tau, then I would look at, because I'm looking for the daily, it's overbought in the stock RSI, then I'd say, okay, let's check my 4 hour. Is my 4 hour overbought as well? Well, the stock RSI isn't quite there, so maybe I'll wait a little bit. And then the RSI is there, so it may not be a bad area to enter. Are we at resistance? And then again, I would ask all these questions, right? Your entry is going to be on the lower time frame. Your bias is going to be from the higher time frame. So with Tau here, you can see the 50 EMA is acting as resistance at 270. So if we expand the chart, you can see the 50 EMA acted as resistance at 387 on November 11th, okay? And then if you look in the past, I mean, it's acted as resistance a couple times kind of blown through it. So I would say 50-50 with the 50 EMA. Like, it does act as resistance sometimes, the previous time it did. And so yes, it could still act as resistance right now. If it does close above the 50 EMA, then I'll look for 290, previous support, turn resistance next. The indicators are saying that, I mean, again, similar to a lot of tokens right now, stock RSI is overbought, RSI still has room to go. And so a lot of this boils down to these EMAs, and if we're closing above or below them. I mean, that's pretty much it at the end of the day. Now, resistance-wise, Tau is near resistance of this 260 to 265 level. So it very well could reject from here if it closes below, and then potentially do something like this where either A, it continues higher, or B, bounces off here and then continues higher from there. So it's probably one of these if it rejects. If not, let's say it closes above, then my entry would be at 260 here. My entry would be at 260. Let me circle that so it stands out a little more. So that would be my entry if we do end up closing above this 50 EMA and then retracing back down for the support retest. That'd probably be the better entry. Otherwise, you may be looking for a pullback here. And I mean, if you're looking for a buy, maybe 250, right? 250, maybe one, but again, below that, 235. And I mean, you can see it's just, there's not a lot to work with on Tau. I mean, especially lower. So yeah, 215, 235, but really I would like to see this resistance, I guess, be broke through and then buy it as support. So those are the levels I'm watching right now for Tau. And then resistance wise, 290 and then 300 for that psychological level. So, but if anyone else has any other questions, also pass it to Shim if you're on right now. Shim, what's your current view of the market? What are you thinking right now? Are there any tokens or narratives that you're looking at?
Hey, buddy. I'm pretty much looking at the agents, the AIs, the LLMs that are developing right now. For the first time in crypto space, we are actually getting those platforms, aggregators that have one in all solutions, something that we've been looking forward since day one. So I'm talking about just imagine an interface where you talk to Grok-like agent and it can process the data, it can process the wallets, it can help you with your trades. It does no basic technical analysis and all these other things like following volume, looking at minting functions, looking at the CT rings of the transactions happening between the devs. And I'm looking forward to all these developments that are going to be happening, especially with the global market as well, as we are in the shortages with RAM and chips and everything else. And I believe these things are going to be very closely tied with the developments that are happening right now. So these are the things that I'm very, very, very keen on, and I believe that those who are patient enough and those who actually pay attention might be able to profit more than most people did with BTC, because these are going to be, how do I say these? These are going to be those one-on-one solutions to everything. Like, as I said before, I compare this to dial-up. Back in the day when we had the dial-up internet, everybody was connecting onto their phone lines. And for those who remember, all the family drama back at home, you couldn't use the phone line because they were preoccupied with the internet. And then even when you were using the internet, you needed to wait 10 or 15 minutes to just load a photo, right? So there was a massive, massive uh, issue when it came to, you know, uh, getting all the data back and forth. And I remember it was the dot-com bubble, and everybody was saying how it's going to be huge, it's going to be huge. But then it took us 20 years to get there, right? So I'm not saying it's going to take us 20 years to get there as well, hopefully. It all depends on the shortages that we're lacking right now with GPUs, with RAM, with CPUs. But I'm pretty sure that the moment we have very interesting protocols coming out, and the first adoption that we receive is going to be massive. So I will definitely be looking out to that. Back to you, buddy.
Awesome, awesome. A lot of great takes on there, and I think the big takeaway there was just how quickly tech is advancing and how quickly AI is advancing. Even Elon Musk said today we are in the singularity right now. Like it's literally happening where tech is advancing so quickly people can't even keep up with it. It's no longer a linear curve or even really part of Moore's law anymore, where you see tech doubles and it halves the price or at half the cost. It's like it's exponentially growing now, and so it's things are changing, and so you need to adapt accordingly. A side note, and I saw the question about checking Cake, so I'm gonna go over that in a minute as well. But a side note to that is if any of you guys, obviously I'm sure everyone here has used ChatGPT. If you haven't used Claude, so Claude is another AI chatbot, you could say, but it's more focused on coding. And so if you use Claude for coding, I highly recommend it. It's a great AI bot. Even the 4.5 Claude Opus, it's amazing. Even the Claude Coder. So I highly recommend you guys check that out, as well as any other AI tools. Like AI is very prevalent right now, and you can do anything you want with AI in blink of an eye. And so definitely check that out. But yeah, great points there, Shem. Appreciate you sharing that as always. Now looking at Cake real quick. So it is coming up against resistance at 205. Stock RSI is overbought. RSI still has room to run. Same story, different token here. Now, yeah, I wouldn't buy it right here because you're literally buying it into resistance. And so if you're aggressively want to get into Cake, then $2. Right? $2 would be your conservative, or I say aggressive entry. Conservative wise, wait till 187. 185 to 187 would be a conservative entry for that. Now, if it breaks and closes above, let's say it closes above 211 on the daily, then yeah, I may be a buyer at 206 technically, but still it has this 50 EMA. You can see in the past, it has rejected from in the past. And so that's something I would watch as well. That is at 212. And then 220 would be the next major resistance there. And so with Cake, I know the BNB Eco is heating up. Aster, Broccoli, even BNB, it's right below its $900 level. And so all BNB needs to do is close above 900, and then the whole BNB Eco will continue to pump. And so again, I would say, yeah, Cake's not a bad not a bad beta play. Aster may not be a bad one as well. I know it's starting to bottom out near 75, 77 cents. And then again, Broccoli maybe, but usually I don't like to buy those memes after they've pumped so much in a day. But yeah, just keep an eye on the BNB Eco. I think you're on the right track, Tyrone, and I think it definitely could catch a lot of people by surprise if things start heating up with that. But the big thing here is going to be a close above, let's say, close above 210 to make it more convincing. And then from there, we can start to talk about changing trends with Cake and really start to make those higher lows afterwards. So let's see. Adam says, what are your thoughts on copper? Thanks. Let's go and check out copper. So copper is an interesting one because many people don't really talk about copper, and this may not even be, let me see real quick. Let me see if there's a better, I don't think it's, no, that's not it. All right. Someone give me the ticker symbol to copper real quick. I think it is, because I know gold is XAU. I haven't looked up copper in a minute, but I do think, so he's going to be stock, or no, it's going to be more indices probably. Let's see. No, that's not it. Okay. Hold on. Let me find the thing of copper real quick, and then we'll check it out. 1 second, guys. All right. So I think, was it HG? 1 second. 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 1 go pull it up on another chart here. CFDs on copper. Okay. Yeah, I think just COPPER should pull it up relatively well. I'll just pull it up on another chart. 1 second. Sorry guys, just pulling it up on another chart here. Okay, here we go. So here is copper. Now, where are we going on copper? I think the big thing right here is, one, it is reaching that resistance up here, right? And so copper is looking very, very interesting right now. I think that potentially we could see even a further run here. Now, stock RSI is starting to reset on the daily. RSI looks like it wants to curve back to the upside here. And so, yeah, copper doesn't look bad right now. Copper doesn't look bad. And I do strongly believe that probably could see it outperform even gold and silver in the near future. And so, yeah, I would just wait until it crosses above 587. And so if it closes above, let's say close above $6, that'd be a better level. Then I'll say we're off to the races with copper. So, I mean, if you even look at the weekly, I mean, just look how much it's gone up originally, right? Like, copper's been on this tear. And so, yeah, it's definitely either about to break out or break down. If we're going to have either a double top, I mean, look what happened last time it got here. 585, literally straight down to 444. I mean, so is that going to happen right now? I don't think it's going to be that crazy if it does. But if we're looking at the weekly here, the stock RSI, it's overbought on the weekly. I don't like that. RSI, potentially bearish divergence. We draw that. Lower high. And then price with copper, slightly higher high. You see what I'm saying? So that's a possibility too. So I would be not betting on copper right now, just from the weekly perspective. Maxim says, what's going on, Data? Can you check up ton why some of the coals are making X post about it, like crash? Is it just a tactic to warning, or something is cooking on it? So a little alpha for you guys. Whenever you have influencers all posting about a token, it's because they're doing an OTC deal on it. What I mean by OTC, over the counter, basically it means that the company or protocol is giving them the token, let's say on a 30% discount. And either A, they give it to them all right away, or they give it to them, let's say, over 3 months. And so, for example, say, okay, we're going to give you ton at $1.44, and we'll give it to you over 3 months, hand it out linearly, but you have to make 4 posts about us each month, right? So if you're bullish on ton and you think the market's going to do well, getting it on a 20 or 30% discount, hey, it looks good to you. You just have to post about it. So again, that's a little backyard baseball, if you will, inside baseball, as they say, for the reason why a lot of influencers are talking about it. Now, right now, could we be forming, I mean, that's a very weak double bottom if I'm trying to draw it for the middle right there. But, if we're potentially saying, okay, this could be forming some type of double bottom here, or again, it's bounced twice off of 144. Could that be the bottom? Maybe. But yeah, for ton, it's not looking horrible if we're looking on the weekly, because the RSI is crossing above its signal line, and the stock RSI as well is crossing above from overbought or oversold. Sorry. So that is something, right? Now, if we go to the daily, daily doesn't look that good, because the stock RSI is almost having a double top on being overbought. Then the RSI is just getting to the overbought territory. So if I was a buyer on ton, or if I was looking to buy ton, and you can actually zoom all the way back here, you can see this wick all the way down here. See how it bounced off of that way back in December of 2023, and it's bounced off of that again in October 2023. Literally, we're up against that resistance. And so you could argue that if we close the daily above 190, let's say 195-ish, or even $2, then ton is starting a new uptrend. Now, I don't know what's going on with ton. I don't know what's going on with the team, with the catalyst they have upcoming. Crash is usually somewhat tuned into the market. And so if he's bullish on it, maybe there's an underlying reason. Maybe they have a marketing push happening soon. A lot of companies do that. They'll have, say, $10 million ready to push in for marketing, whether it's like buying the token with a couple million and then paying the influencers for another couple million. And then, you know what I'm saying? So there's these marketing pushes that these companies do have. So maybe they're starting with that. I'm not sure. They haven't messaged me. if they did message me, I wouldn't promote them. I would either A, let you guys know before I did, or B, it's just the token in general has not been bullish. And so I'm waiting for these big levels to be overtaken to then get bullish again on ton. But yeah, I'll just be cautious right now. So also,
I could
guys,
add a few things to that as well.
Oh, good.
If yeah, so I would just like to add that I've built a lot of things on Ton, and I was one of the first people to actually build a super bot that was just functioning and trading. And I did a lot of things, and I have actually a couple of close buddies that made the biggest protocol on Ton. And it's one of those protocols that actually controlled the liquidity pools for all the dexes. And the reason why Ton is down so much is because all these serious projects that actually had the opportunity to create real volume funneling on the chain were shut down by the blockchain themselves. So I understand why Ton has dipped so much. And this wasn't just one protocol. I'm talking about 3 or 4. And I don't know how long it's going to take them to rebuild that infrastructure, to find somebody to actually be able to provide solutions to liquidities back and forth on Ton. For a lot of people who are not very technical and they don't know this, Ton is one of very rare blockchains that was coded completely differently than any other one, and it has multiple layers. What does that mean? That means that, for example, I'll be just real fast. If you have like a wallet, the wallet that you have on Ton has 4 or 5 different versions, meaning it's correspondingly working simultaneously on 4 different Tons blockchains. And depending on which version you are, you could see your tokens or not see your tokens, basically meaning that you have 4 different wallets, right? And it gets even more complicated. It gets more complicated because depending on what wallet you're using, you could be having one seed phrase for all of them. So it's super easy to compromise wallets on the version 3. So for example, if somebody compromises your seed phrase on version 3, then they can hack all the rest of your wallets and your money goes poof. And with all these protocols now, why am I saying this? Because there were all these protocols that created solutions to that and mitigate those problems and problems with the liquidity, because Ton has massive issues with liquidities. If you actually search for it and look around, you will see that the only volume that's being made on Ton is from the stable coins, and it's actually from stable coins being extracted out of the blockchain from Ton, which is even worse. My opinion is, I don't know, I would be very, very skeptical and very cautious if you guys are going to be trading on Ton. I would just advise you to take your profits straight away. Don't wait for some crazy X's unless there's some significant, massive bullish rally. But then again, just like CryptoData said, I would be very skeptical with all these PRs and paid influencers that are pushing this forward. Back to you, buddy.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. A lot of good info there. A lot of good back info as well. And just real quick before I pass it to Andre, because he had his hand raised, then I'll get to A afterwards. We did reject off of this 50 EMA on the daily, and now we are closing above it on Ton. So potentially a little signal shift, a little trend shift here. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens around 190 if we can close above it, and then if not, again, we'll just move on from that. So Andre, good to have you here. I know it's been a while, but I remember us talking way back in the day. So how you been? All right, looks like Andre may not be here. Okay, A, you are unmuted now. So how are you doing? I know it's been a while since I talked to you as well. Nice. Okay, neither of them are there. So with that said, guys, if anyone else has any other questions in the comments, then we can go ahead and answer those. Give another 30 seconds. But the biggest thing, one, I wanted to mention is, it's 2026, so make sure you guys are properly managing your risk, but it is a new year, so there is going to be new opportunities. I strongly believe Q1 is going to be very bullish, and so I will be looking at posting more longs as well in the group. I know Adam just commented, CD, do you know about pre-stocks, which tokenizes pre-IPO companies? Curious on your thoughts about investing in these companies like SpaceX, XAI, Anthropic, Anduril, and OpenAI, if it's worthwhile or just wait for IPO and see how the market reacts. So great question, Adam. Now, pre-stocks, I'm assuming that would be similar to like pre-sales in the way that, you have these prices that aren't official yet, but you can technically bet or buy those quote unquote stocks And then from there, depending what IPO is at, you could be in a profit or not. Maybe it's a way just to give normal investors the access versus only accredited investors. That's something that could be good if you get in at a good valuation. I'll say that. So if whatever pre-stock, like whatever platform you're using to invest in that, one, make sure it's legitimate, make sure it's not a scam, make sure it's a company that's reputable, and also have, you know, a clear process of doing it, and make sure that you're not exposing yourself to too much risk if it's something that's new. So yeah, I would definitely say just be careful with that, Adam. But if it's reputable, if you can get in at a good valuation, I would recommend definitely SpaceX. Like, I think they're going to go super far because they're also partnered with Starlink. Starlink is like a subset of them. And Starlink is already going to be crazy this year, especially with launching more satellites and using the sun's energy for potentially data processing and just a lot more things. And so, yeah, SpaceX is going to be one of the best ones. And then, I mean, yeah, XAI, Anthropic, I mean, those are very bullish. I'm very bullish on Anthropic, actually, because they're the creators of Claude, and Claude has been doing very well, like I mentioned earlier. And so, yeah, definitely if you can invest in those, absolutely. If it's safe, you can get in at a good valuation, 100%. And Mr. Cody said, hope you're having a good time, G. Please, could you let us know your thoughts about Bonk? Yeah, so Bonk has been pumping a lot, similar to Pepe, similar to Shiba Inu. And I think that, again, if Solana pumps, Bonk is one of the number one beta plays, in addition to Useless and a few other big Solana tokens. Now, currently, Bonk doesn't look too bad, but same thing with all these tokens. They're getting overbought on the daily for the RSI and stock RSI. Now, Bonk is actually approaching its 100-day EMA, which you can see did act as resistance and then support in the past and then resistance again. So the yellow line here, the 100 EMA, is pretty significant for Bonk, and that's why we saw a little rejection here. And so if we can't close above that, then I would look to buy potentially around the 1 level, so 0.0001. That'd be a good level to buy at. And then from there, I'll look for resistance at the 1.3 level, so the 135, where we rejected from last time. And so again, the big thing right now is just closing the daily above 121. If we can close above that, then 135 is the next one. And then afterwards, potentially the 200 EMA at 1.5 and then 1.7 afterwards. But like I said, I'm expecting some type of pullback within the next few days because these indicators are so overbought. We'll have to see what happens come Monday. That's when the volatility should return from a low liquidity weekend. Now, also, guys, before we sign off here, make sure you guys check the announcement that I made in the TG chat just above the live stream announcement, where I said that I was releasing another free product for you guys to start the new year off right. All that's required is you guys fill out the form. Again, it's just a short questionnaire, get your email, also extra info about yourself to see where everyone is at in this group, because this group in this year is all about starting off right and giving you guys the right tools to use, as well as develop you as a trader. Because as they say, you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but you teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. And so we're all about teaching you all how to fish, fend for yourselves, learn the basics of TA, learn the basics of trading, so you can become successful in this market, whereas 95% of people lose money because they are not taking those proper steps. Mr. Cody said, meme coin trenches does not look that good right now. Better to stick with majors, isn't it? By the way, thanks, CDA. No problem. Yeah, meme coins, I mean, they're doing very well in terms of pumping, but in the same token, no pun intended, when you have memes pumping 30, 40, 50%, then it's like, okay, probably gonna have some type of pullback. So just be careful. That rotation is gonna happen from memes to utilities again and other big plays. I did mention that I was looking at Umbra. So Umbra is actually another privacy token. And I know Shim is also very bullish on Umbra. They have a lot of good tech and they're set up well with their business structure. And right now it's doing good, 157. I do believe Umbra is going to go $4.50 to $5 over the next probably 3 to 6 months. And I know everyone is saying only a 3x in 3 to 6 months. Well, if you're betting on size, then that's a pretty good play. And I know people who are very close to the team. That's all I'll say. And they have big things coming. And so I'm in Umbra from, I believe, 150. I think that's where I bought it. So literally not that far from where it's at now. It's at 159. So yeah, Umbra's a good one. I recommend everyone research it, especially with the privacy narrative like Zcash and XMR, Monero, both tokens, which I also am bullish on. I think privacy is going to be a big narrative this year, along with AI, along with robotics, quantum. What else? Potentially biotech, and then maybe RWA, real world assets, as that becomes more and more prevalent, as there's more real world use cases, and BlackRock continues to talk about it, one of the top asset managers in the world. So again, that is what I'm looking for right now. But yeah, I appreciate all of you guys joining today. Again, this live stream is being recorded right now, so it will be posted publicly on my personal YouTube channel, CryptoData, if you guys have not seen that. So definitely subscribe to that channel if you aren't. And again, these live streams are going to be more and more prevalent. I'm going to be making sure these are more frequent, and so that we're going to at least have a live stream per week, if not more than that, because like I said, I want to start the new year off right. I want to make sure you guys are getting your money's worth, which your money is free because you're not paying for anything. And so I want to make sure you guys are getting the value provided in this group more so than any other group. And so I want to say just thank you for all the support, guys. It means the world. Again, you guys liking my content, commenting, everything of sorts. I appreciate it. And this is just my way of giving back, making sure I give you guys value back as well. So thank you so much. Shim says tokenized stocks as well. Yes, tokenized stocks are another big narrative. So a lot of big narratives to start the new year. Make sure you guys are ready. I'm going to make sure to stay one step ahead. And so make sure you tune in to all these live streams and are up to date with the posts that I make in the TG, as well as some opportunities that are coming. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you guys fill out the form if you haven't. I will be sending some nice goodies to start the new year to your emails. So make sure to also check your spam folder, move it to your inbox so that my emails start going through, and then we can really start giving you guys the most value possible this new year. So thank you all so much. Appreciate everyone for watching. And until next time, guys, have a great 2026. Talk soon.